Hello, I'm here at the foot of the Pennines at Rivington Chapel in the northwest of England to see if I can find a magical talisman inscribed on an ancient stone pillar at the back of this very cold and very dark graveyard. Yeah, it's definitely locked. Maybe I shouldn't go in. Oh well, sod it. Gonna fall on my face here. Okay. The oldest gravestone in this church is from somewhere in the 1600s. This isn't at all spooky. Oh my god, it's so cold. Must be around here somewhere. Oh, sorry pal. Turning his grave. Oh, what's this? Yes, we found them. Okay. Let's have a look. A lion. Some snooker ball. A wheel. Well, these kind of look like... That's like a tetractys in the middle, the Pythagorean tetractys, but upside down. These look like tarot symbols. Not really Christian. The lion there, like strength from the tarot. No, the Wheel of Fortune. What's this? It's a horse, a guy in a horse, a guy in a chariot, maybe? I don't know. There's a five-fold cross there. He looks like a hermit, does he not? Or is he giving benediction to the guy with the fleur-de-lis popping out of his head there? These are really cool. Who's this? A guy with a Tau Globus Cruciger. That actually relates back to the other work I was doing on the pattern that is the Philosopher's Stone. Check other videos for details on that. We go with the lion again. Who is this guy? Is he Jupiter? Saturn? He's some kind of a kingly guy. So where's the Sator? What's this one? Rough stone. Cool. What's this? Random triangles. Can't even tell what these are. Is that a key there? Or a willy? That's going to take it. Is that a date? I really can't read this one. It's on this side. So where's the Sator Square? Ah, there we go. Found it. Sator, Arepo, TeneT, Opera, Rotas. Oh, and there's a little Saturnian symbol there at the bottom. Wow. Okay. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got a 5x5 palindrome. Sator, Arepo, TeneT, Opera, Rotas. And because it's a palindrome, it can be read backwards as well. Sator, Arepo, TeneT, Opera, Rotas. Actually, it can be read this way as well. Sator, Arepo, TeneT, Opera, Rotas. And because it's in Latin, the actual word order doesn't really matter. So you could read it Rotas, Opera, TeneT, Arepo, Sator, as you please. So what does it actually mean, and what's it actually for? Well, it was used initially to ward off demons, to stop witchcraft getting to your cattle, to break fevers, and to put out fires without the use of water, whatever the hell that really means. So what does it mean? So it means, well, the scholars translate it as Sator, the farmer, Arepo, that's his name, TeneT, holds, Opera, the works, Rotas, they translate as plough. So the farmer Arepo holds the works of the plough. Also hidden in here is the phrase Pater Noster. You can take apart the letters and reassemble them in an anagram, and you get a cross that reads Pater Noster with the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, left over. So the Christians claim this. We are in a Christian churchyard. However, this symbol is pre-Christian, and pre this churchyard it was brought from nearby Anderton, from a hall there. And when you look at these icons and these engravings, they really don't look all that Christian at all. You have a crucified figure, but that's not exclusively a Christian thing. Nor was this. The Christians might claim it, but what they can't claim is that they were present in Pompeii, which is very well preserved. And we have one of these very well preserved there. That is the oldest one we know of in the world. This is one of the oldest ones in this country. I think there's an older one in Manchester, but that's about it. And so, because there were no Christians in Pompeii, but we do find the Sator Square there, we can derive that this isn't actually a Christian symbol. And that Pater Noster, which translates to Our Father in Latin, isn't the father of the Christians, but actually the father of a related cult, the cult of Mithras. Their Pater Noster, which is apparent in their 7th ritual, which is called Pater Noster, and he was this deity Saturn. And if we look on here, we can see a Saturnian symbol just underneath this Sator Square. Very cool. To the ancients, of the 7 viewable heavenly bodies, Saturn was the furthermost and took the longest to make its orbit, and therefore was associated with limitation, with incarnation and embodiment, a matrix, space, time. Father Time is a Saturnian deity archetypal form, as is death. All of these carry a scythe, as did Chronos, Saturn to the Greeks. Time, chronology. This god to the Mithraic cult was also called Aeon. So just as we found the cross of Pater Noster hidden in the Sator Square, so too we find a different kind of cross, this Templar style cross, the cross of Aeon, when properly drawn, gives a specific angle that then gives the meter and the second. So let's take another look at this translation. Sator means farmer, fair enough. That's because the root of it is really to sow, the sower, as in an archetypal sower, as in a father, a progenitor. As Saturn is the progenitor, the grandfather of the gods. In fact, Sator is the same root as Saturn, which means to sow, because Saturn is related to farming and farmers, because they're obsessed with time too, just like Father Time is a Saturnian figure. They need to know when to plough, when to sow the seeds, and when to harvest. Well, that's more apparent because the fruit's ripened. But there we go again, they use a scythe, it's just as does death, as does Father Time, as does Chronos, as does Saturn, because they need to reap the benefit of having worked hard over that year, and the fact that time cuts down all in the end. So here we have these calendrical associations, just as with Chronos, just as with Aeon, who is actually a larger cycle than that. The cycle of the Aeon is to do with wheels, and the wheel of the zodiac, as we'll find out later. So we've got Sator, the sower, the father. Arepo, who is Arepo? Well, when I put it into Google Translate, Arepo came out as a sneak, and these magical symbols are definitely sneaky in the way that they hide things. Most people think it's actually Arepo, as in Harpocrates, Aripocrates, the Greco-Egyptian version of Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris. I think it's something very similar to that. I think it's actually Saripo or Serapis, the Greco-Egyptian conflagration of the gods Osiris and the Apis bull, who were both very death, rebirth, sacrifice, resurrection, calendrical, Saturnian gods. TeneT means to hold, opera is the work, and Rotas, that's the final word that we can really take a good look at, because Aeon, the other god hidden in here, as well as Paternoster, the same god, as well as Saturn, all these gods are the same god, as well as this Osirian Apis bull god here. So we're showing that it's definitely to do with calendars and time. Well, the rotas that are usually around these gods, especially Aeon, are the wheels of the zodiac, the rota of the zodiac. And that shows not only the cycle of the year, but also the longest cycle known to man, a secondary cycle called the precession of the equinoxes, which we're not exactly sure as to the reason for it. We do believe that it's because of the axial wobble, the axial tilt of the Earth, but also possibly because of a secondary sun, which we orbit around a secondary system. Now, to take a closer look at Aeon and to reveal the further depths of this very strange and beautiful mystery, we're going to go back to somewhere much warmer, because I am absolutely freezing, and at this point it's not necessary to hang about this old stone pillar anymore. Thank you. So here's Aeon, mostly depicted as a very nude, very young man, to show these ideas of cosmic time being in the forever now. The serpent winding up his body represents the cycles of time, as does the wheel of the zodiac around him. Here is this great knowledge. So let's show you the workings of the wheels. So here's a slightly more modern version of the Sator Square by master occultist Eliphas Levi. We can see the Sator Square in the centre with the deity Jehovah, Yahuwah, the Hebrew god, and the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac around him. And we know it's Jehovah in this case because we can see 4 Hebrew letters around those 4 fixed signs of the zodiac: Yod, Hey, Vav and Hey, spelling Jehovah, Yahuwah. Mr. Master Occultist here left us a beautiful pictorial clue. In Hebrew, just as with Greek and with Roman, they use the letters as substitutions for numbers. That Yod is worth 10, the Hey, 5, the Vav, 6, and that final Hey, another 5, equaling 26. Equally so, those 4 fixed signs of the zodiac have numbers associated with them. Aries would be number 1, but that's not here. Taurus is number 2. Leo is the 5th sign. Scorpio, which actually has 3 different animals assigned to it: the serpent, the scorpion, and the eagle, 8 in the zodiac. Whereas Aquarius, the man, is number 11. Add these together, you get the exact same number as the name of God, 26. On the final image of the major arcana of the tarot, we can see a very similar depiction of a very similar god at the center of a wheel and those 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Equally so, we can see these iconic deities hold a staff in the hand. So now, when we look at more ancient depictions of this god, we can see that that staff has actually encoded the axial tilt of the Earth, which gives us a large cosmic cycle. Not a day, not a month, not a year, but a great year of 26,000 years. Because of the tilt of the Earth, the North Pole points at a different star, depending on where it is in this cycle. Currently, it's Polaris, but that wasn't always the case. If you look at an astronomical map, you'll see the constellation of Draco, the serpent, which goes around the pole stars. And depending on where we are in the cycle, the North Pole, currently at Polaris, will point at different stars, sometimes regions of nothing, but that cycle changes and comes back round. This is symbolised on Aeon by that wrapping serpent around his body. So why does Aeon hold a key? Well, it's the key to the mysteries. It's the key to the great arcanum. It's the key to the precession of the equinoxes. The key to the works of the wheels. A profound, mind-blowing secret, which indeed seems to be the great secret of this secret science. When we take a look at the numbers generated by this precession of the equinoxes that the ancients were encoding in the mystery traditions, we can soon see there are some very cosmic coincidences here. If you were to sit down over a lifetime, you might notice after about 72 years that each of these 12 signs precess or go backwards by 1 degree. So each degree of this 360 degree circle is worth 72 years. And when we plug this in, each month is 2160 years. Each season would be 8640 years, and the full year would be 25,920 years, or 26,000 years. Each of these numbers is in the 9 times table. When each of these numbers is given a digital root, they all end up at 9, which is often a mystical signifier of something deeper going on. The numbers generated by this pattern are the numbers of the mystery. They appear in the harmonic series of 432 Hz in Pythagorean musical tuning. They're the internal angles of the platonic solids. They end up being the size of the planets. This seems to be the key to the harmony of the spheres, the works of the wheels, whereby the proportions and distances, sizes and scales of the cosmic objects such as planets and stars and galaxies are to these beautiful harmonic proportions. The music. So if that wasn't enough, there are still 2 more parts to this mystery. And for the first of them, we need to go back to that Sator Square. But we're going to get there via the traditional magic square, which was seen as magic because all of the various rows and columns add up to the same number without repeating a digit. Coincidentally, everything here adds up to 666, which 6 times 6 times 6 is 216, which is the Platonic month of our precession of the equinoxes. It's the internal sum of the angles of a cube, and it's also in our harmonic series. And it's the size of the bloody moon. Here's a square that you're surely more familiar with. The square of the multiplication table. Now let's do something special to it. Let's give it a digital root, which is basically that Kabbalistic formula where the numbers are reduced down to 1. So if it's 100, 1 plus 0 plus 0 is 1. If it's 333, it's 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. Always reducing to 1 digit. If that digit goes over, say it's 4 plus 4 plus 4, which equals 12, 1 plus 2, then equals 3. And we have our digital root. If you look at the final 2 columns and the bottom 2 rows, you'll see that those are pointless. The final column for obvious reasons, and then we can see that we have this strange mystical almost effect of 9, which just returns itself every time. And this is a feature of the fact that we're using a base 10 system, which means there are 9 numbers and 0 as the next layer up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 being back to 0 for the reset to go through the rest of the numbers. That then allows us to multiply by 10. 10, 100, 1000, just add on another 0. If we had this same system in base 8, 7 would do the same as 9 here and return itself, etc, etc. More magically, this is a base 7 multiplication square, whereas base 10 had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 is the placeholder. Base 7 actually goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. and 6 in this system has the same return effect as the 9 in the base 10, if you get me. So here is the base 7 square. So what we're going to do is reduce it in base 7 to its digital root. Again, any numbers being reduced to 1 digit by adding them together. Okay, now we're going to get rid of that final column because it's just a repeat of the original numbers, and also that second column that returns itself, and we're left with a 5 by 5 magic square of sorts. Okay, so now rather than having the numbers, I'm going to assign each number a colour. Makes a beautiful pattern, doesn't it? Now watch this. If I overlay that with the Sator Square, boosha! It fits beautifully. Each number being assigned a letter and a colour repeat and represent themselves throughout the magic square. Lining up beautifully with the clues from the Paternoster cross, we see that the A and O are similarly switched. What this means at this point, I really don't have any idea, but this seems to fit the pattern. But this seems to fit the Sator Square and will be much more in line with how we know magic squares work. Speaking of work, Saturn and that word opera, opus on the Sator Square, which means work. Ops is Saturn's wife, which means riches, goods, abundance, gifts, munificence, plenty. The word's also related to, as we just said, opus, meaning work, particularly in the sense of the earth, ploughing and sowing, which is where they originally derived the idea of Sator being the farmer and Rotas being the plough rather than the wheel. When Saturn finds out of a prophecy that his and his wife, Ops or Opus's children, would end up overthrowing him as a leader, he ate his children one by one as they were born. Opus, being the loving mother that she was, couldn't stand by and let all of her children be eaten by her fearful husband. So, instead of feeding Saturn their final child Jupiter, she wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and fed that to Saturn instead of Jupiter. Opus then went on to raise Jupiter and helped him free his siblings from their father's stomach. That stone seems to be the same stone repeated in many myths, including the famous stone of the philosophers, which I've purported to have found in a geometrical pattern based on the geometrical shape of 7, the heptagram or septagram. This beautiful, profound pattern, as outlaid in previous episodes, absolutely seems related to the music of the spheres and the size of the planets, plus the harmonies and geometries of the universe. So although I haven't quite finished my investigations into all of these magical talismans and geometries and numbers, I'm sure that these things fit together under the bracket of the number 7. We have base 7 numbers in that Sator Square. We have the 7 associated with the planet Saturn, and we have the 7 of the geometry of this philosopher's stone. My name's Ryan7. This was The Secret Science.